The galaxy was vast, full of light and life, and yet somehow it felt quiet. For centuries, thousands of species had formed a fragile order called the Galactic Council, a place where rules were written to keep peace among the stars. No species was allowed to build weapons that could destroy entire worlds. No one was allowed to create warships that could threaten the balance. Everyone had learned that lesson the hard way after the Great War of the Nine Systems. Everyone except the humans. Humans were newcomers to the stars, just a few hundred years into interstellar travel. They were quick learners, endlessly curious, and uncomfortably unpredictable. The Council watched them closely. Humanity had already broken several small rules, experimenting with forbidden drives, settling in restricted zones, and reverse engineering alien technology they were never supposed to touch. Still, they were tolerated. The Council believed humans would eventually learn restraint. But one quiet morning on the galactic border, that belief shattered. It began when the sensors of the Council's Deep Space Observatory picked up something impossible. An unknown vessel had entered neutral space near Etris Prime, a barren world known mostly for its silence. The readings were chaotic, energy levels far above any known design, a radiation signature that flickered like a heartbeat, and a mass so large the scanners struggled to compute it. At first, the observers thought it was an error. Then the data stabilized and a single image appeared on their screens. A ship, colossal in size, shaped like nothing they had ever seen. Every major species got the alert within hours. The Galactic Council convened an emergency meeting, voices echoing through the chamber. Was it a new empire rising? A lost weapon from the old wars? Or something worse, something alien even to them? The answer came when one of the Council's smaller probes finally got close enough to transmit a clear visual. There, engraved across the dark metallic hull, were the familiar letters that no one expected to see. United Earth Fleet. Silence fell across the chamber. Humans had built a battleship, but they weren't supposed to. The treaties were clear. Earth's fleet was limited to defensive cruisers and exploration vessels. Nothing even remotely close to what the sensors now described. This ship, whatever it was, dwarfed anything the Council had ever authorized. The Council's high speaker called for calm. Perhaps it is an industrial ship, he said. A colony hauler. We must not assume aggression. But deep down, everyone knew better. Humans had always been different. They pushed boundaries not because they wanted war, but because they couldn't stand being told what they couldn't do. A diplomatic fleet was assembled to make contact. 12 ships representing 12 major civilizations moved toward Etris Prime under full protocol. Their mission was to observe, communicate, and if possible, demand an explanation. As they approached the system, the first thing they saw was the shadow. The ship was orbiting the planet like a silent moon, its dark hull reflecting the distant starlight in strange ways. Its surface seemed alive, panels shifting slightly, adjusting to unseen rhythms. There were no visible weapons, no glowing energy ports, no windows. It looked less like a ship and more like a fortress built by logic itself. The lead envoy opened a channel. Unidentified human vessel, this is the Galactic Council. You are operating in restricted space. Identify yourself and state your purpose. There was no reply, only static. They tried again. And again. The same result, silence. Sensors picked up faint activity on the ship's surface. Energy readings fluctuated for a few moments, then settled. The humans weren't ignoring them, they were watching. The realization made even the most confident commanders uneasy. Probes were sent closer for analysis. Each one disappeared the moment it crossed a certain distance. Not destroyed, just gone, as if erased from existence. The Council fleet pulled back immediately, maintaining a cautious distance. The command logs recorded everything, but no one could explain what had happened. The diplomatic envoy decided to wait. Maybe the humans would respond in time, but days passed with no signal, no movement, no sound. The ship just floated there, patient and still, like it was studying them in return. Word spread across the galaxy faster than light. Every major news network, every intelligence division, every admiral wanted to know the same thing. How had humanity built this? Where had they found the resources, the power, the knowledge to construct something so enormous without anyone noticing? Speculation turned into fear. Some believed Earth had uncovered ancient alien technology, something lost from before the Council's founding. Others said humans had made a deal with the rogue AI remnants that still haunted the outer sectors. and a few whispering in the darkest corners claimed this was not a ship at all, but a living machine. Back on Earth, there was no official statement. The planet remained silent, governments refusing to comment. The human representatives in the council chambers denied knowing anything about the vessel. "It's not ours," they said. But their faces told another story. Meanwhile, in the skies above Etris Prime, the mysterious ship continued to wait. The council fleet began to debate withdrawal. Some captains argued that staying too close was dangerous. Others insisted they had to understand what humanity had created before retreating. But none of them wanted to be the first to provoke a reaction. On the 6th day, something finally changed. The human ship shifted its orbit slightly, aligning perfectly with the council fleet. Its hull rippled like liquid metal, then stabilized. Energy signatures spiked briefly, massive yet controlled. It was as if the ship was taking a breath. "Are they preparing weapons?" one officer asked. "No," another replied softly. "They're scanning us." The council fleet scrambled to shield its systems, but it was useless. The human ship's scan penetrated everything: hulls, engines, even life support modules. It wasn't an attack. It was curiosity. And then, just as quickly, the energy readings dropped. The ship fell silent again. That moment, those few minutes of contact, was enough to shake the entire council. Whatever humans had built, it was operating at a level far beyond anything known in the galaxy. It was precise, efficient, and terrifyingly aware. Speculation turned into panic. Some species began pulling their trade ships away from human borders. Others started arming their fleets. The Galactic Council met again, this time behind closed doors, to discuss immediate containment. But how do you contain something that refuses to acknowledge your existence? In the midst of all this chaos, a strange calm settled among certain observers, those who had studied humanity closely. They had warned the Council long ago. Humans didn't build things out of fear. They built them because they believed they might need them one day. They had fought wars on their own planet, survived extinction events, and turned their fragility into strength. The Resolute Dawn, though that name wasn't yet known, wasn't a declaration of war. It was a statement. Humanity had reached a point where they no longer needed permission to stand among the stars. Back near Etris Prime, one of the alien envoys made a decision. Against protocol, he sent a final message to the silent ship. It was short, polite, almost desperate. "Human vessel, if you hear this, please respond. We wish for peace." For a moment, nothing happened. Then a low, rhythmic pulse echoed through the comms. 3 short bursts of sound. The translation systems couldn't identify it. But every analyst later agreed it wasn't random. It was Morse code, an old human signal from centuries past. It said, "Wait." That was the last transmission before the ship went completely dark. The Council fleet stayed in the system for 3 more days, waiting for another sign. None came. Finally, with growing fear and unanswered questions, they withdrew. The official report listed the event as unidentified human experimental vessel, purpose unknown. But across the galaxy, the message was clear. Humanity had built something the Council couldn't understand, something they weren't meant to. In the following weeks, images and fragments of data leaked into public networks. Artists painted it. Poets wrote about it. Traders whispered its name in passing. Some called it the Silent Titan, others Earth Shadow, but most simply referred to it as the day the galaxy held its breath. No shots had been fired. No one had died. And yet, for the first time in centuries, every species, no matter how advanced, felt a quiet unease settle in their hearts. Because deep down, they all knew the same truth. Humanity was no longer asking for a place in the stars. They were claiming it, and whatever the Resolute Dawn truly was, it was only the beginning. The strange human ship was now known across the galaxy. Everyone had seen its blurry images, its massive shadow over Etris Prime, its silence. Yet no one knew what it truly was. The Galactic Council had tried to calm the panic, calling it a harmless experimental platform, but no one believed them. Every passing day, the silence from Earth made it worse. In the deep halls of the Council, arguments broke out. Some believed humans were bluffing, that the ship was just an empty frame, a showpiece meant to frighten others. Others warned that humanity had crossed a line, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Reports came in from spies, traders, and travelers claiming they saw strange shipments leaving Earth months earlier. Massive quantities of metals, quantum cores, and fusion cells. Somehow humans had built the ship in secret, and no one had noticed until it was finished. The most worrying part was how quiet the humans had become. Their ambassadors refused to comment. Their communication channels went dark, and Earth's home system had tightened its borders. Even their usual chatter across trade frequencies was gone. To most species, silence was just absence. But with humans, silence was always a warning. The ship, now unofficially named the Resolute Dawn, continued to orbit Etris Prime. Its armor looked almost alive, dark metal plates rippling occasionally like waves across a sea of steel. The Council sent more probes, carefully this time staying just outside the zone where the first ones had vanished. The new probes collected fragments of information. The outer hull was not made from any known alloy. Its surface seemed to absorb radiation instead of reflecting it, and its energy output remained steady even without visible reactors. It made no sense. Every law of physics they knew said a ship like that shouldn't exist. It was too big, too stable, too efficient, one Council scientist said quietly. If the humans built this, they have solved energy itself. The mystery drew attention from every major power. Intelligence divisions from rival empires began spying on each other, desperate to find out if humanity had help. Some thought the humans had discovered ancient alien technology buried under their oceans. Others believed they had joined forces with the artificial minds that once roamed the edges of the galaxy. But no one had proof, and then came the arrogance of the Krath Dominion. The Krath were a proud warrior species. They believed strength was the only truth that mattered. They had fought the Council before and lost, but they had never forgotten the humiliation. To them, the appearance of a human battleship was an opportunity to prove superiority. They didn't see it as a danger, they saw it as prey. So without permission, a small Krath strike force entered Etris Prime system. 20 heavy cruisers equipped with the latest weaponry, ready to intimidate the silent human ship. Their orders were clear. Demand the humans surrender the vessel for inspection, or destroy it if they refused. The moment the Krath ships entered orbit, the Council fleet monitoring from afar sent warnings. "Stand down," they pleaded. "Do not engage. You don't understand what you're dealing with." But the Krath ignored them. To them, peace was weakness and patience was cowardice. As the Dominion ships approached, the massive human vessel still didn't move. It just floated there, dark and calm. The Krath commander opened a broad transmission, mocking. "Human vessel, this is the Dominion fleet. You are in violation of interstellar treaty. Power down your systems and surrender the ship, or we will take it by force." For a long moment, there was silence. Then, for the first time since it had appeared, the Resolute Dawn responded. A single human voice came through every channel, steady and clear. "Do not approach. This is a restricted test site. You have been warned." The message repeated once. Then the channel went silent again. The Krath commander laughed and ordered his ships forward. They launched warning shots, energy blasts that sizzled through space and exploded harmlessly near the human vessel's hull. There was no reaction. Emboldened, they powered up their main cannons, and then everything changed. Without any visible motion, the Resolute Dawn came to life. The stars around it dimmed as its hull absorbed light, turning the ship into a black silhouette. Faint lines of blue energy traced along its sides, forming strange geometric patterns no one had ever seen before. The energy signatures spiked far beyond anything recorded. Inside the Krath ships, alarms screamed. Their targeting systems froze. Engines stuttered. Weapons powered down without command. The crews panicked, trying to regain control, but their ships no longer responded. The human ship hadn't fired a single shot, yet somehow the entire Dominion fleet was now disabled. The observers from the Council could only watch. The readings on their consoles went wild, an electromagnetic surge unlike anything known. It wasn't just power, it was precision, like the human ship was rewriting the rules of the battlefield in real time. In less than a minute, it was over. The energy readings dropped. The Krath cruisers drifted helplessly through space, intact but lifeless. Their engines would never restart, their systems completely erased as if rewritten by invisible hands. And through it all, the human ship never moved, never spoke again. It simply returned to silence. The Council's fleet recorded everything. The data was sent to every major world within hours. Across the galaxy, no one could believe what they were seeing. The humans had defeated 20 heavy warships without firing a weapon. They hadn't destroyed them, they had simply turned them off. The incident became known as the Etris demonstration. Within days, the Krath Dominion issued furious statements, calling the event an act of war. But they had no proof the humans attacked first. Their ships had not been harmed physically and no one on board had died. The humans could easily claim self-defense, and so the Dominion could only roar in frustration while the rest of the galaxy watched in fearful awe. What scared everyone most was not what humans did, but what they didn't do. They could have destroyed those ships easily. Instead, they showed restraint. It was as if they wanted the galaxy to understand something deeper. Power wasn't just about destruction. It was about control. On Earth, still silent and guarded, people began whispering about the Resolute Dawn. Was it really one of theirs? Had it been built under the United Earth Fleet, or by someone else entirely? Some said it was a peace project, a deterrent built to keep war from returning. Others believed it was a warning to the galaxy. Humanity would never again be underestimated. The Council held emergency sessions for weeks. Scientists argued the ship's energy field was impossible. Military leaders demanded to know how to defend against it. No one had an answer. Every theory fell apart under simple testing. The ship's power seemed beyond human engineering, and yet there it was, carrying Earth's mark. The shock waves reached even the outer colonies, where small independent species began reaching out to humanity for protection. They didn't want to anger the Council, but they believed humans could keep them safe. For them, the Etris event was not frightening. It was hope. Meanwhile, the Krath Dominion gathered its surviving fleets planning revenge. But for the first time, they hesitated. They had seen the impossible, and deep down they feared what else the humans might have hidden. The galaxy was no longer balanced. One silent ship had changed everything. In the following weeks, more strange reports surfaced. Traders passing through human-controlled space claimed to have seen glimpses of new ships under construction, smaller than the Resolute Dawn, but bearing the same shimmering armor. Others said Earth's moon bases had gone quiet, their signals encrypted and unreadable. Something was happening behind the blue planet's veil of silence. The Council tried to open communication again, but Earth refused. Their ambassadors had left the station. Their seat in the chamber remained empty. Humanity, once eager to be part of the galactic community, was now watching from a distance. Many tried to interpret the message behind their actions. Some believed the humans wanted isolation. Others thought they were preparing for something bigger. But one idea began to spread quietly among the lower ranks of Council officers, a thought that no one dared to say out loud. Maybe the humans hadn't built the Resolute Dawn for war at all. Maybe they built it because they had seen something coming. Whatever the truth was, one thing was certain. The galaxy would never again laugh at the humans. They had created something that defied logic, something that could end fleets without violence, something that spoke a language beyond power. And as the Resolute Dawn drifted silently above Etris Prime, its dark surface glowing faintly under the distant sun, everyone watching from across the stars shared one unsettling thought. If this was only their first true warship, what would humanity build next? The entire galaxy was still talking about what had happened at Etris Prime. Everyone had seen the recordings of the Krath Dominion's fleet floating dead in space, intact but powerless. 20 mighty warships silenced by a single human vessel that never even fired a weapon. It was something no one had ever witnessed before. The Galactic Council held emergency sessions that went on for weeks. Inside their great hall, hundreds of voices argued endlessly about what humanity had done. Some said the humans had discovered forbidden technology from the old wars. Others claimed they had somehow unlocked a new kind of energy. But beneath all the arguments, one emotion echoed louder than any other: fear. No one had ever imagined humans could build something like that. They were supposed to be a young race, still learning how to live among the stars, and yet in silence they had created a ship that made entire empires nervous. Still, humanity said nothing. They didn't deny the existence of the ship. They didn't explain what had happened. They simply stayed quiet. The Galactic Council finally decided to send another group of observers to monitor the area. The new fleet remained far from Etris Prime, careful not to provoke the strange human ship again. They recorded every movement, every energy pulse, every minor fluctuation, but the ship stayed still. It didn't move, didn't respond, didn't even appear to breathe. It was as if the humans had left it behind. like a watchful guardian waiting for something. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, tension grew. The smaller civilizations began to whisper that the Council couldn't protect them anymore. They had seen the footage. They had seen the Krath's failure, and they believed the balance of power was shifting. Some even started sending messages directly to Earth, asking for alliances, protection, or trade agreements. For the great powers, this was a dangerous development. Humanity was suddenly being treated as an equal, or worse, as a superior force. That made the older empires uneasy. Among those uneasy powers, one was the Zorani Combine. For centuries, they had built their reputation on controlling technology and weapons across the known systems. Their leaders couldn't accept that a young species had surpassed them, and in their frustration they made a mistake that would change everything. In a quiet meeting hidden from the Council, the Zorani leaders made a plan. They would uncover the secrets of the human ship, no matter the cost. They hired spies to infiltrate human colonies, bought information from smugglers, and even bribed human traders. But they found nothing. The humans were careful, disciplined, and impossible to predict. Finally, the Zorani decided to take action directly. They sent a stealth drone toward Etris Prime, designed to scan the ship's structure from a distance without being detected. The drone crept closer, invisible to most sensors. For hours it approached quietly, sending back detailed readings. Then suddenly the feed cut off. When the technicians checked the data, the last image they saw was terrifying. A small ripple of light moving across the ship's surface like an eye opening. Then everything went black. Even though they lost the drone, the Zorani managed to recover a few seconds of useful data before the signal was erased. And those few seconds made every scientist in the Combine freeze in disbelief. The ship's energy field wasn't mechanical. It was something new, something alive. The readings looked more like a heartbeat than a machine's output. It was as if the ship itself was thinking. That discovery made the Zorani leadership panic. They couldn't let humanity become the only species with such power. They had to act before it was too late. So they called for a secret meeting with the Krath Dominion, the same warriors who had lost at Etris Prime. Together, they formed a desperate plan. They would send a joint fleet, not to destroy the ship, but to disable it and take it apart piece by piece. They believed if they worked together, they could overwhelm it. The operation was called Silent Harvest. The joint fleet jumped into the Etris system one quiet evening, arriving behind the shadow of a nearby moon to avoid detection. Their strategy was simple: attack from multiple angles, shut down the ship's systems using energy dampeners, and then board it. They believed humans wouldn't dare fight back violently while the Council was watching. The plan fell apart within minutes. The moment the fleet came within range, the resolute Dawn woke up. The entire planet below it lit up like a reflection of the ship's power, its magnetic field stretching wide and swallowing the attackers in an instant. Every ship's system began to fail one after another. Shields collapsed, engines died, weapons refused to fire, communication channels filled with static. It was like the human ship was rewriting reality around them. And then, for the first time since its creation, the human ship moved. Slowly, the resolute Dawn turned, its massive hull gliding through the void like a mountain drifting through clouds. The attackers' sensors couldn't even measure its full size. They could only see the light patterns sliding along its surface, forming symbols no one could translate. A human voice came through on every frequency, calm, steady, and emotionless. "You were warned." The next instant, space exploded in silence. Not in flames or chaos, but in pure stillness. Every attacking ship froze in mid-motion, suspended in space, engines burning but going nowhere. The ships were caught inside a gravity field so strong it bent light itself. Then just as suddenly, the field vanished. The ships drifted apart, unharmed but powerless. The crew stared in disbelief as their systems rebooted on their own. When they regained control, all their weapon cores were gone. Every weapon component had been turned into harmless metal dust. It wasn't an attack. It was a message. The resolute Dawn opened its communication channel again, this time to every network across the galaxy. Every ship, station, and planet with a receiver heard the same words at the same time. Humanity did not build this to conquer. We built it to prevent another galactic war. Stand down. Learn from this. There will be no second warning. The message repeated once, and then the transmission ended. For several hours, the galaxy stood silent. Even the loudest voices of the Council couldn't find words. The entire event was recorded and replayed millions of times. Billions watched it in disbelief. The ship hadn't destroyed anyone. It hadn't claimed a single life. And yet, every powerful empire now knew one simple truth. If the humans wanted to end them, they could do it in seconds. The Krath Dominion and the Zorani Combine both denied involvement in the failed attack, but everyone knew the truth. The Council demanded answers, but no one dared accuse humanity directly. The humans didn't attend the emergency session. Their seat remained empty once again, a silent reminder that they no longer needed permission to be part of galactic affairs. After the broadcast, strange things began to happen. On distant worlds, smaller species began declaring independence from their larger empires, claiming that the age of fear was over. On human colonies there was quiet pride but also unease. People began asking what kind of power their own leaders now held, and whether it was safe. For the rest of the galaxy, the message from the humans was clear. They were no longer playing by anyone else's rules. They had built something that could enforce peace or end everything. The Council tried to re-establish communication with Earth again, but Earth's systems refused to respond. Their ships patrolled their borders silently, and their trade stations no longer shared data. Humanity had stepped out of the galaxy's shadow, and they were now standing on their own. Some called the Resolute Dawn a weapon. Others called it a guardian. But everyone agreed on one thing. No one would ever look at humanity the same way again. Months later, as calm slowly returned, an explorer ship passing through Etris Prime's orbit noticed something new. The Resolute Dawn had moved slightly closer to the planet, and its hull now shimmered with faint blue light, like a heartbeat under the metal. It was sleeping again, but not gone. The captain of the explorer ship recorded a simple message in his log. "It's still watching." Those words spread quietly through the stars. The Council debated whether to send another fleet, but deep down, everyone knew what would happen if they did. So, they decided to do nothing. The galaxy had seen enough to understand. Humanity had built something beyond imagination, something that didn't need to fight to prove its strength. And somewhere deep within that silent ship, under its glowing armor and endless corridors, someone, perhaps a human captain or maybe something else, was still waiting. Waiting for the day when they would need to remind the stars once again that peace wasn't given. It was enforced, and from that day on, every time a new fleet launched into space, every admiral, every pilot, and every leader looked up at the stars and remembered the same thing. There was a human ship out there somewhere in the dark. And the galaxy had learned, when humans say you were warned, they mean it. After the second incident at Etris Prime, the galaxy changed forever. No official declaration came from Earth, no threats, no demands, just silence. But sometimes silence can be louder than war. Every civilization, from the smallest trading world to the oldest empires, now looked toward humanity with a mixture of fear and fascination. News networks replayed the transmission again and again, the human voice that had echoed through every channel in the galaxy. "We built it to prevent another galactic war. Stand down." Those words were simple, but they shook everyone. The Galactic Council met day and night. For the first time in centuries, the chamber was full of nervous energy instead of pride. Old rivals sat side by side whispering to each other, united not by trust but by fear of the same thing. The humans. Some tried to remain calm. They argued that the Resolute Dawn was just a symbol, a single ship meant to show power but not aggression. Others warned that if one ship like that existed, there could be more waiting in secret. No one could be sure. The Council ordered investigations into every human shipyard and colony, but they found nothing unusual. It was as if the humans had erased all traces of how the Resolute Dawn had been built. Even their digital records were locked behind new encryption no alien system could crack. Meanwhile, rumors began spreading among the common people across the stars. Traders passing through human space said they saw strange movements near Earth's moon, large structures being built and hidden behind dark shields. Some claimed there were whispers of a second ship, larger than the first. Whether it was true or not, the rumors made the galaxy even more uneasy. The bigger empires started arming themselves again. The Zorani Combine doubled their fleet size. The Krath Dominion quietly built new weapons, trying to recover from their humiliation. But despite all their preparations, everyone knew the same truth deep inside. If humanity decided to fight, no fleet could stop them. What confused everyone most was why the humans didn't use their power. They didn't attack. They didn't take control. They didn't demand anything. They simply watched. In the months after the Etris incident, strange things began to happen. Piracy dropped almost to zero in the regions near human borders. Wars that had lasted generations between smaller races suddenly stopped. Entire sectors grew quiet and peaceful. It was as if the presence of one silent human ship had changed behavior across the stars. The Council didn't know whether to be grateful or afraid. Some believed humans had truly built the ship to protect peace. Others whispered that this was how domination began, without violence, just through fear. On Earth, things were different. People finally learned what had happened through news that spread slowly from military leaks and whispers in spaceports. The Resolute Dawn was no longer a secret, but no one outside the top ranks truly understood how it worked or who was commanding it. Some believed it was controlled by an advanced human AI. Others said it was manned by a crew sworn to silence. A few conspiracy theorists claimed it wasn't even human-made at all, that Earth had discovered something ancient buried on Mars decades earlier and rebuilt it in secret. The truth remained hidden, but one thing was clear. Humanity had crossed a line it could never return from. They had become a galactic superpower overnight, and now every move they made was being watched. The Council tried to open peace talks again. They sent a formal message requesting a meeting with Earth's representatives. The humans replied politely but briefly, "We have no conflict with the Council. The Resolute Dawn will remain a defensive asset." That short reply only made things worse. Defensive asset or not, no one trusted a weapon that could rewrite the rules of war. Behind closed doors, Council leaders began planning for the worst. They started building hidden research facilities, trying to find a way to counter the ship's mysterious energy field. Billions of credits were spent, countless scientists recruited, but all their attempts failed. The technology simply didn't make sense. Across the galaxy, propaganda started to appear. Some called humanity heroes who had finally brought peace through strength. Others painted them as dangerous rebels defying the laws of unity. But while the great powers debated, the smaller worlds started making choices of their own. One by one, small planets declared independence from the empires that had ruled them for centuries. When their former masters tried to stop them, they sent simple messages. Earth will protect us. And strangely, those attacks never came. It was as if everyone feared that one wrong move would bring the shadow of the Resolute Dawn back. For the first time in recorded history, the galaxy entered an era of uneasy peace. Trade routes became safe again. Conflicts cooled. And even though no one dared admit it openly, it was all because of the humans. But peace born from fear is fragile. In a dark corner of the galaxy, a group of high-ranking officials from several major empires met in secret. They believed the humans were hiding something even greater, technology that could threaten existence itself. Together, they began plotting a plan to contain Earth's influence before it was too late. While they plotted, humanity moved quietly. Their colonies became more efficient, their fleets more organized. They stopped showing their weapons in public, but everyone knew they were still building something. The Resolute Dawn remained in orbit above Etris Prime, motionless but alive, sending silent pings into space every few days, signals no one could decode. Then, one day, something unexpected happened. A distress signal came from the far edges of the Council's space. A mining colony was under attack by unknown ships, raiders using cloaking devices that no one had seen before. The Council's patrol fleet was too far away to respond in time. The colony was doomed, but before the raiders could land, the signal changed. The colony's sensors detected a massive energy surge, then a shadow covering the stars. Within seconds, every attacking ship was gone. The distress call ended with only 2 words: "We're safe." When rescue ships finally arrived, the miners told them what they had seen. A giant vessel, dark as night, with blue light moving across its hull. The Resolute Dawn. That incident made the entire galaxy pause. The ship hadn't been seen in months. Many thought it had been decommissioned or hidden away, but now it had appeared again, not to attack but to protect strangers. The story spread faster than light. People on distant worlds cheered. For the first time, humanity wasn't just feared, they were respected. But in the upper chambers of power, that respect only deepened the fear. The Council tried once again to contact Earth. This time they demanded to know who controlled the ship and under what authority it acted in Council space. The humans replied with a short message. The Resolute Dawn will act when peace is threatened. No approval needed. That single sentence divided the galaxy completely. Half the Council saw the humans as protectors, keeping balance where others had failed. The other half saw them as a threat to freedom, a new power rising above all others. Debates turned into shouting matches. Old alliances began to crack, and yet through it all, Earth remained calm. They didn't interfere. They didn't boast. They simply watched from afar, as if waiting for the galaxy to make its own choice. In the following weeks, something began to shift. A few of the smaller worlds officially signed alliances with Earth, pledging loyalty in exchange for protection. It wasn't a military alliance, it was something quieter. Trust. For the first time, the galaxy realized that the humans weren't trying to rule anyone. They were simply making sure no one else ruled by fear. But the empires couldn't accept that. The Krath Dominion, still humiliated from their losses, saw the growing trust in humanity as an insult. Their leaders began preparing again, this time not with direct attacks but with sabotage and deception. Reports started coming in of human freighters disappearing near the border. Communications being jammed. It was clear someone was testing Earth's patience again. Inside the silent ship above Etris Prime, the lights flickered for the first time in months. The Resolute Dawn had awakened. The galaxy watched nervously. Everyone remembered what had happened the last 2 times it moved. The Council sent urgent messages to all governments pleading for calm. But some powers had already gone too far to turn back. War seemed inevitable once more, and as fleets across the stars began preparing for what they thought would be the final confrontation, one truth became clear to all. Humanity hadn't wanted power. They had only wanted safety. But now, pushed and tested again and again, they were ready to remind the galaxy what happens when peace is mistaken for weakness. The Resolute Dawn was waiting. Silent, patient, and unshakable. Everyone knew it wouldn't stay silent much longer. The galaxy stood on the edge of something no one could name. It wasn't war yet, but peace no longer felt real. Every government, every empire, every hidden world watched the same point in the sky, the silent shadow above Etris Prime. The Resolute Dawn hadn't moved in weeks, but the fear around it grew every day. In the council halls, tension was unbearable. Leaders argued, whispered, accused. Some demanded a full alliance with Earth. Others wanted to build a weapon that could destroy the human ship before it acted again. But deep down, everyone knew the truth. They didn't have the power or the courage to do either. Humanity had changed the rules. Still, pride runs deep in the old empires. The Krath Dominion, humiliated by their last defeat, refused to stay silent. Their admirals believed the only way to restore respect was through action. They began plotting in secret, gathering ships in deep space far beyond official patrol routes. They didn't plan a frontal assault. No, they had learned that lesson the hard way. This time they wanted to strike in the shadows. Their plan was simple. Lure the Resolute Dawn into a trap using fake distress signals, then detonate an experimental weapon designed to collapse its shield from within. It was risky, untested, and desperate, but desperation had become their only strategy. Meanwhile, on Earth, things were uneasy too. Ordinary people had begun to realize their planet was no longer just part of the galaxy. It was the center of it. Reporters asked questions the government refused to answer. Why was the Resolute Dawn silent? Who commanded it? Was it even under control anymore? Inside command centers, officers worked day and night. Every signal from the ship was monitored. Every movement in deep space was tracked. The humans had no interest in war, but they could feel it coming. It was like a storm that hadn't yet touched the ground, but was already rumbling across the horizon. Then one day, the storm arrived. It started as a faint distress signal from the Etris system, an allied science station requesting emergency aid. The message sounded genuine: a reactor malfunction, radiation leaks, multiple injured. The station begged for help before the situation became critical. On Earth, the signal was verified. Everything looked normal. The Council had already sent their patrols elsewhere. so the message was routed directly to the Resolute Dawn. Within minutes, the massive ship stirred to life. Its engines lit up for the first time in months. Light rippled across its dark surface, and space itself seemed to bend around it. Slowly, it left its silent orbit and began its journey toward the station. Across the galaxy, thousands of eyes watched in secret. The Dominion's trap had begun. The science station floated peacefully near the edge of a nebula, its bright lights flickering faintly. The Resolute Dawn approached slowly, its scanners sweeping the area. Everything seemed normal, but hidden deep inside the nebula, a fleet of cloaked Dominion cruisers waited, armed with a weapon they had sworn could destroy anything. As the Resolute Dawn neared the station, the Dominion commander gave the order. The trap was triggered. In an instant, a pulse of dark energy erupted from the nebula, rushing toward the human ship. The science station exploded, vanishing into dust. It had never been real, only a decoy. The pulse hit the Resolute Dawn directly. For a moment, the stars dimmed. Across the galaxy, monitoring stations lost contact, every sensor reading flatlined. The human ship vanished from all scanners. The Dominion fleet cheered. They believed they had done it, the impossible. They had destroyed the most powerful ship ever built. Messages were already being prepared to spread the news. The human threat has been neutralized, but then the stars began to flicker again. From the heart of the nebula, a blue light appeared. Faint at first, then brighter, burning like a second sun. The Dominion sensors started picking up strange readings, signals they couldn't decode. The light grew until it filled the entire region, and then they saw it. The Resolute Dawn was still there, untouched, undamaged, and alive. Its hull glowed with bright lines of energy running from end to end. The pulse weapon hadn't weakened it. It had awakened it. The Dominion ships began to retreat, panic spreading through their ranks. They opened wormholes and hyperspace gates, trying to flee, but the Resolute Dawn didn't move to chase them. Instead, it emitted a single blinding wave of light. Every weapon system within 100,000 kilometers shut down. Shields failed. Engines went silent. The Dominion fleet was left floating under powerless. The human ship didn't fire. It simply sent one transmission across all frequencies. We gave you peace. You chose deception. There will not be a third warning. Those words echoed across the stars, reaching even the farthest colonies. The Dominion's leaders fell silent. The council itself went quiet for hours after hearing the message. No one could believe what had happened. Within days, the Krath Dominion denied involvement, claiming rogue admirals had acted without orders. But the truth was clear to everyone. Humanity had seen everything. The Resolute Dawn had recorded every move, every secret signal, every hidden ship. When the recordings were transmitted to the Galactic Council, no one dared speak. The images showed the Dominion's deception in full. Even their allies couldn't defend them. Their reputation shattered overnight. And humanity? They didn't ask for revenge. They didn't demand territory or tribute. They simply withdrew the Resolute Dawn back into the shadows near Etris Prime. No celebrations. No broadcasts. Just quiet resolve. But the damage was already done. Not to the humans, but to the galaxy's trust in itself. The idea that someone could lie and betray even after being given peace shook everyone deeply. Many began to believe that humanity wasn't the threat at all. It was their own arrogance that had blinded them. Across thousands of worlds, people began to speak differently about Earth. They were no longer the outsiders or the upstarts. They were the protectors no one had asked for, but everyone secretly relied on. In the following weeks, something incredible happened. Independent worlds, colonies, and small nations started reaching out to Earth voluntarily. They wanted to join the human coalition, a new alliance based not on power but on mutual defense. The Galactic Council tried to stop it, but they couldn't. The more they resisted, the more systems left to join the humans. Earth never boasted about this growth. They simply accepted each world that came in peace. Their only rule was simple: no aggression, no tyranny, no war. Meanwhile, within the shadows of the Dominion, anger burned. The surviving admirals couldn't accept defeat. They began searching for allies who shared their fear of humans. Quietly, they found others, bitter leaders from empires that had lost power since Earth's rise. Together, they began forming something secret, a hidden coalition dedicated to stopping humanity at any cost. They called themselves the Concord of Shadows. Their goal wasn't open war. They planned something slower, something smarter, to turn the galaxy against Earth using lies, propaganda, and manipulation. They would spread the idea that humans weren't peacekeepers but conquerors in disguise. They believed that if they could unite the galaxy through fear, they might have a chance. Back on Earth, human leaders could sense something stirring. Their intelligence networks began detecting strange patterns, coded transmissions between systems that were supposed to be neutral. The feeling of calm after the storm started to fade. Inside the command center, an officer stared at the silent image of the Resolute Dawn hovering above Etris Prime. The ship looked peaceful, almost asleep again. But deep inside, everyone knew it would awaken when needed. The admiral in charge gave a quiet order. Keep the ship on standby. They will come again. And somewhere far beyond human space, in a dark system hidden from all scanners, the Concord of Shadows held their first secret meeting. Dozens of alien leaders stood around a dimly glowing table. In the center, a holographic image of Earth rotated slowly. One voice broke the silence. "We failed to destroy their ship. Next time we destroy their hope." The others nodded. The galaxy was about to change again. Not with weapons this time, but with deceit, fear, and illusion. Humanity had shown its strength before. Now it would be tested in a different way. Not by battle, but by trust. The Resolute Dawn remained silent in the void, a guardian watching over countless stars. To some, it was a symbol of peace. To others, a reminder of their greatest fear. But one thing was certain: the galaxy would never be the same again. And as whispers of the Concord began to spread through the darker corners of space, the humans quietly prepared for what was coming, because they knew that the next war wouldn't be fought with weapons. It would be fought with truth. Months had passed since the failed trap at Etris Prime. The galaxy had grown quiet again, but not peaceful. The silence was the kind that comes before something breaks, when everyone is waiting for someone else to make the first move. The humans had withdrawn, keeping to their borders. The Resolute Dawn remained still, watching from afar like a silent guardian. To most, it had become a myth again, something too powerful to be real, too distant to fear every day. But beneath that calm, a darker plan was already in motion. The Concord of Shadows had grown fast. It spread quietly through the cracks of the great empires, whispering into the ears of those who still feared humanity's power. They told leaders what they wanted to hear, that Earth planned to control the galaxy, that the human coalition was just the first step in building an empire. Their lies worked. Worlds began to turn cold toward Earth. Trade routes were cut off. Old alliances started breaking. Propaganda filled the networks, edited images of human fleets, fake reports of colonies being forced to join the coalition. Even peaceful species, who once trusted humans, began to doubt. Fear spreads faster than truth, and soon, the galaxy started to believe the worst. On Earth, leaders could see it happening but refused to respond with aggression. They knew that fighting lies with violence would only make the rumors stronger. So they waited, hoping reason would return. But the Concord didn't stop. One day, the impossible happened. An attack on a neutral world under human protection. The attackers used human ships, perfectly copied down to the smallest detail. They destroyed the colony and left messages claiming it was done by the human coalition. Billions watched the fake recordings and turned against Earth overnight. For the first time, the galaxy voted to isolate humanity. The Council passed an order cutting all contact with Earth and its allies. The humans had gone from heroes to outcasts again, this time not by war but by manipulation. The Resolute Dawn stayed silent through it all, as if waiting for something. People began to question if its crew had abandoned it. Some even believed the ship was no longer under human control. Then one morning, something strange happened. A small signal came from the outer edge of human space. It was weak but clear, a distress call from a coalition colony. The message said they were being attacked by unknown ships. When the transmission was analyzed, the truth became clear. The attackers were the same ships that had destroyed the neutral world. The same stolen human designs. It was a setup. The Council blamed Earth again, calling it a trick to gain sympathy. But the humans didn't respond to the accusations. Instead, they launched a silent operation. A small team was sent to investigate the source of the fake ships. They traveled deep into uncharted space, beyond the Council's control, into a region where signals vanished. What they found there was worse than they imagined. A hidden station built by the Concord of Shadows. Inside were shipyards building hundreds of fake human vessels, designed to carry out more false attacks. The team recorded everything, every detail, every signature. But before they could send the data back, the Concord detected them. The outpost's defenses opened fire, destroying their ship. Only a single escape pod made it out, carrying the evidence that could clear humanity's name. When the pod returned, Earth acted. The Resolute Dawn came alive again. Its engines lit the void brighter than 1,000 suns. Across the galaxy, sensors began picking up its energy signature, and panic spread like wildfire. Everyone thought Earth was preparing for war. But this time, the Resolute Dawn wasn't alone. From every human colony, ships began to move. Not warships, but freighters, science vessels, transports. They carried supplies, aid, and signals of peace. Alongside them, the allied worlds of the human coalition sent their fleets too. It wasn't an army, it was a movement. The humans broadcast a single message to the entire galaxy. We do not seek war, but we will not be silent while lies destroy peace. The truth will be shown. And then they did something no one expected. The Resolute Dawn didn't head toward any council world. Instead, it went straight to the hidden region where the Concord base was located. Dozens of ships followed it, not to attack, but to record everything. When the human fleet arrived, the Concord panicked. They activated all defenses, sending hundreds of fake human ships to block the way. To the galaxy's watchers, it looked like humans fighting humans. Confusion spread. News networks began streaming the battle live, not realizing what was really happening. The Resolute Dawn didn't fire for several minutes. It simply transmitted the recorded evidence. Images of the Concord building the fake ships. Messages between their leaders plotting the deception. Every government, every citizen, every screen in the galaxy received the proof at the same time. The truth spread faster than the lies ever had. And then, once the data was confirmed, the Resolute Dawn finally acted. It unleashed a controlled wave of energy that disarmed every weapon in the sector. But instead of destroying, it disabled. The Concord's ships went dark one by one, left drifting helplessly. The hidden base was captured, its leaders taken alive. The galaxy watched in silence as the truth unfolded before them. The so-called human attacks had all been fakes, designed to turn the galaxy against Earth. The real villains were the ones who had claimed to protect it. When the truth reached the Council, there was no celebration. Only shame. The same leaders who had accused Earth were now forced to admit their failure. Public protests erupted across the stars, demanding peace and forgiveness, and Earth, the one they had shunned, responded not with anger, but with compassion. Human ships sent food and medicine to the planets that had suffered because of the lies. The human coalition opened its borders to refugees from the fallen Concord systems. Slowly, the galaxy began to heal. In time, the Galactic Council invited Earth to take a permanent seat, not as a junior member but as an equal power. It was something no species had ever achieved in such a short time. But humanity didn't boast. They simply accepted and continued to do what they always had: protect, rebuild, and move forward. As for the Resolute Dawn, it became a legend. The ship that had once terrified the galaxy was now seen as a symbol of justice. It remained stationed at Etris Prime, not as a weapon, but as a reminder. Its massive hull bore no battle scars, only the quiet glow of peace. People from every world came to see it. Pilgrims, students, soldiers, all stood beneath its shadow looking up in silence. Some came to remember fear. Others came to remember hope. But everyone agreed on one thing. Humanity had proven something extraordinary. That strength wasn't just about weapons. It was about restraint. Years later, when the galaxy entered a new age of unity, they called it the Dawn Era, named after the ship that had changed everything. The Concord of Shadows was gone, their leaders tried and imprisoned. But their mistakes became lessons for everyone. No empire could rule by fear forever, and no lie could hide the truth forever either. On a quiet night above Earth, the stars seemed closer than ever. A young technician looked out from the space station window, watching the faint glimmer of the resolute dawn far away. It was silent again, just as it had been in the beginning. He smiled and whispered to himself, "Maybe that's all we ever needed, not power, just someone to remind us what peace really means." In the end, that was what humanity had given the galaxy. Not domination, not fear, but understanding. The first contact with a human battleship had left the galaxy speechless, but the silence that followed wasn't born from fear anymore. It was respect. Because now everyone knew the truth. The greatest strength in the universe wasn't in destroying others. It was in choosing not to.